This lesson is to help teach you how to do a printmaking art activity. So there's a few things that we're going to use. We are going to use a rubber stamp to do our carving in. And then we're also going to be using some lino cutters. So this is the handle for my lino cutter, and you can see in the top there's a little part to put your cutters. My set comes with several different shaped cutters so that you can cut different grooves when you're carving. I'm going to start with this one. It's kind of a little V-shaped groove. I'm not sure how well it shows up there on the screen. But basically what you do is you just insert that into the handle and then twist it to tighten to make sure that the cutter doesn't fall off. So this is just a small sample for practicing. It's very pliable, it's flexible, so that it's easy to carve into. What you're going to do is start out by drawing your design. This one is going to be my sample, so I'm going to keep my design as simple as I can. So the first thing that I'm going to do is just take a pencil, and I am going to draw, I think we'll just stick with a flower. We'll keep it as simple as possible. So I'm going to start out by drawing some flower petals. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep it as simple as I can, nothing too fancy. Like I said, this is just kind of my demo one to show you how to use the tools for printmaking. All right, so I have some petals that go around. I'm also going to do a center to my flower. So like I said, it's going to be pretty simple. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to carve around the edges of my petals. And basically you just lay the cutter onto your line and then just trace around the line. And as you can see, the shavings are starting to come up. I'm just going to kind of make a pile of those. I'll clean those up later. Like I said, this one's going to be very, very simple, nothing too fancy. I'm going to make this one just a little bit deeper here. So if you need a deeper cut, you just kind of go over it again, trying to stay on the same lines. Okay, so I have all of the outer edges of my petals cut and carved. I'm just now taking some smaller cuts through the center of my flower, and I'll clean these up as we go, but like I said, just doing some little small pieces. It's going to have lots of texture, I hope, where there's some highs and some lows when I print it, some raised areas and some not raised areas. Like I said, it's going to not look as neat and clean in this inside piece since I don't have straight lines in there. And then I'm just going to kind of try to brush out the shavings from there. Then I'm going to do just a few little line strokes that come up the center of my petals. Like I said, this one's not going to be anything fancy. This is just a little sample to show you what you can do. Keeping it pretty simple. Okay, then the other thing you can do, like I said, I have a little bit of a mess. If you want to carve out the outside, just to give it a nice clean flower look. So what I'm going to do is switch out to a bigger carving tool. So I'm just loosening this, going to take that tip out, and then this one's just a little bit bigger. Make my carving a little bit easier. And once again, you just twist that to tighten it up. And then what I'm doing here is I'm just removing the background. So out here on the outer side of my flower petals, I'm just using these pieces to get rid of, or using the tool to get rid of the background so that my flower is more raised up. So I'm just going to continue using these bigger pieces all the way around. And like I said, just removing that background the best that I can. I'm going to keep working on that. Okay, so at this point I have all of the background pieces removed from my stamp. These little circles, they're actually a little pack that comes for stamp making. They have little adhesive stickers on the back of them. So this one's going to be really easy to stamp. Once again, I'm going to use the same handle tool that I had from before. I'm just going to loosen this up, pull the cutting tool out, and then I am going to put on the stamping tool instead. And then what you do to stamp it, you just peel off that back sticker. This will come off later. Stick it onto the base of that black piece. And then when it's time to stamp, it's on there. And then all you have to do is stamp it onto your paper. Okay, there are also other ways that you can stamp as well. And I'm going to show you that method here shortly. Okay, so the flower was just my practice one. You guys, for watching the printmaking tutorial, will get to have one of these circles to create your own little sample piece. Now, if you want to do something more elaborate, that's what I'm going to show you next. That would count on your choice board as your free choice option. So if you choose to do a more elaborate piece for printmaking, this is definitely something that could count towards this, and also as your print work for watching this tutorial today, okay? So keep that in mind. I have very, very large pieces of the rubber mat, or I have this one I've cut down smaller. I'm actually going to cut mine a little smaller just based on what I'm going to make today. So I'm just going to make a narrow piece. I'm just going to cut, let's see if I got it there. There it goes. Once you get a little slice in there, they just break right apart. So what I'm going to draw on mine today is just going to be a simple feather. Okay, so I'm going to start out with my pencil. I'm going to make the center part of my feather. It's going to be a little bit wider down on this end. And it's going to get narrower as I go towards the top. And then I'm just going to do a real simple feather design. And I'm going to draw that out before I cut. So I think what I'll do here, I'm going to go ahead and draw the tip of my feather. And then I'm going to draw some pieces to give it a little bit more dimension. So here, I think what I'll do is raise that up a little bit. These are just going to be some fun little pieces. Sometimes with printmaking, you can get your lines too close together, and that makes it really hard to cut. So one of the things that I try to do when I'm creating is to watch that space just a little bit. Try not to get them too close together. On this side, I'm just pretty much doing stripes for my feather, and I'm going to do more detail work on the other side. So you'll just kind of notice that I've got the same kind of design going on over here. This one's going to come up. And then I think I'll do another one here. Like I said, just mostly doing some line strokes through here to give it a little bit of texture and dimension. Then on this side, this is where I want to do more of a pattern and a design. So I'm going to go ahead and do my next one right here. Got a few little lines that come out. This one's going to come over. And I think what I'll do on this one is maybe do a few spirals inside. So I'm not sure how easy spirals are going to be to carve. But I'm ready for the challenge, I guess. We'll see what that looks like. The next one, I'm just going to do a few little wispies again, and then a bigger part to my feather here. And then I think on this one, I'm going to do some line strokes that go this way, and maybe a couple circles down here. Okay, so very simple design. I think up here I might try to do a little design as well, and then a few over here. Okay, so I've gotten my pattern drawn out. Once again, like I said, it's a pretty simple design. I just want to go ahead and do the carving next. So I'm just going to take apart my handle again from earlier, put my attachment back on, and then I'm going to start with that really fine V-shaped cutting tool like what I used to begin with earlier. So I think I need to open this up just a little bit, and then that attachment will fit right inside, and then just make sure you tighten it up so that your cutter stays. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is try to cut right along those lines for the inside of the feather. The harder you press down, you'll get a deeper cut. Okay. And then same thing on the end. I just want to finish off that end piece there. It didn't want to come out. Let me see if I can. There it goes. Now the cool thing about printmaking is that you can use your print stamp over and over and over again. So you can make as many of these as you choose. So once again, I'm just trying to cut right along my pencil lines. If you accidentally slip, you can't put it back, so you have to be really careful. So I'm just doing these little grooves. I'm going to turn it so I can get the other side. And if you ever feel like it didn't cut deep enough, you can always go back over it again. Alright, so then here, I actually want to try to hollow this part out just a little bit. So I'm going to do the center of my feather. And then, like I said, I wanted that part to be more hollow, so I'm just going to go ahead and continue to cut out that whole teardrop shape. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and just keep tracing or keep cutting along those lines. Alright, so I'm getting close with mine. I just have a few sections left on my feather. One of the things that I like to tell students, I really try to discourage having you carve words into your pieces. The reason why is that when you are printmaking, everything has to actually be in reverse, because when you stamp it, you're actually stamping it upside down. So it's a really common mistake for people who are putting letters into their printmaking to get those letters backwards or to spell a word and it shows up in reverse. So like I said, especially for your first project, I would like to try to discourage some of that just to keep it a little bit more simple and hopefully have a successful print for your first piece. Okay, so this one's just a little bit more elaborate than what I did before. The next step is to show you how to ink those and actually make a print. Okay, so when you're printing, you're going to get to select your ink. I have several different block print inks. They come in all different colors. Today I'm going to choose the red one. So what we do, we're pretty fancy around here. We just use a styrofoam meat tray. And then what I do is I take that ink and I just squirt a line. This one looks like it's set up just a little bit, but we can fix that. So we take that ink, we just kind of squirt a little bit on there, and then I'm going to take one of my rollers, okay, just like this, and what I'm going to do is just spread that ink a little bit so you can see where some of it has separated. I'm just working that together, rolling it back and forth so that that ink isn't thick in any spots. Like I said, I'm just kind of working it in. You can even turn it and roll it the other direction if you need to. That's looking a lot better, a little more consistent with not having that thick part. I think the liquid has kind of mixed in a little bit more. So a couple of things when we're printmaking. On this little one, I showed you earlier how you could actually stick it onto the stamp and then stamp it onto your paper. That would be one option. But I'm going to show you another option. So first thing I want to do to save my desk, I'm going to put down just a scrap paper because I don't want to get my desk dirty. It'll make cleanup a lot easier. So I'm just going to lay down some scrap paper. I'm going to lay my sample flower that I just made, and this one was just my practice one, so I'm not expecting anything high quality here. I've rolled my ink onto it, And then the next thing I'm going to do is take my printing paper. I'm just going to lay that right on top of it. A couple of things you can do. You can press with your hands. This is a small piece, so that's easy to do. But we also have these little squeegees. So when you're making a piece, you can just drag it across from bottom to top and then from right to left and left to right until you know that ink has spread all over. Then very gently, you're going to lift it up off of your print block, and hopefully you have a good design on your paper. Okay, so that was our quick sample piece. Now let's try it with our feather piece. This one we put a little bit more time and effort into just to show you that you can make a bigger design. So once again, I'm going to roll my ink. Going to place that ink onto my stamp print. I'm going to take my paper. Normally you'd want to kind of try to center it if you can. So I'm going to lay that right over the top. I'm going to use my squeegee and go from the middle towards the top. Same thing from the middle towards the bottom. And then you want to come out both sides also. Now, when you feel like you've pressed it well, then very gently you're just going to lift up that paper, and hopefully you have a good quality print design. And I could do the same print over and over again. I just have to save my rubber stamp that I made. Once your piece is all complete, you're going to sign it and then let it dry. Okay, so a couple options for your assignment. If you are just wanting to gain the experience from learning a little bit about printmaking, your assignment will be to create just a small stamp out of one of these circles, like what I did with my flower design. Okay, if you are wanting to get a little bit more elaborate, remember that I have the carving blocks in all different sizes. So I have those, I think the largest I have is like a 9 by 12 maybe, so you can do a pretty good sized piece. So if you choose to do a bigger piece, remember that on your artboard assignment, that will count as your option 6 free choice if you so choose, okay? If you're just wanting to do something to show that you watched the tutorial and you're submitting your piece for a grade, then you can just do one of the smaller circles and turn that in for your points, okay? Thank you for watching. I hope you learned a little bit about printmaking. I can't wait to see what you guys create.